At my sister's 300-guest wedding, under chandeliers bright enough to blind you, my mother, Helena Ellington, lifted her glass, smiled that polished Denver society smile, and asked, "So when's your turn?" No whisper, no grace, just a clean slice delivered in front of a ballroom full of strangers. My father, Robert, looked away. My sister, the family favorite, everyone adores, blinked like she'd just won something. And I stood there feeling every year of being the afterthought pressing against my ribs. But I didn't flinch. I already knew what they didn't. 8 months ago, I had a wedding too. Before I tell you what really happened, where are you listening from? People like to say families are complicated, but mine never felt complicated. It felt choreographed. Every holiday photo, every graduation speech, every perfectly posed Christmas card was centered around my younger sister, the one everyone adored. I learned early that in our house, love wasn't loud. It was selective. I'm Maya Ellington, 32, an architect living in Austin. I design structures meant to hold steady in any weather, which is ironic, considering how easily my own family let me fall through the cracks. Growing up in Denver, I was the quiet child who colored in the margins while everyone clapped for the star performer beside me. My sister, 3 years younger, had a way of walking into a room that made people straighten up. Our parents followed that gravity without even noticing they'd done it. I don't think they ever meant to make me feel small. They just didn't notice when they did. The memories that still pinch are small ones. A birthday where her cake had a sparkler fountain while mine came from the grocery store. A school play where she was the lead and I was asked to help backstage. You're so reliable. A graduation dinner where my honors cord was barely acknowledged because she just posted a viral video. It wasn't cruelty. It was habit. And habits can cut just as deeply as intent. By the time I moved to Austin for work, I'd gotten used to the quiet kind of loneliness that comes from being loved out of duty, not enthusiasm. Then I met Ethan, steady, thoughtful, the kind of man who remembered the little things because he actually listened. Being with him felt like stepping into a world where showing up wasn't a performance, it was a default. When he proposed on a trail outside the city, just the two of us surrounded by dusk and pine, I felt something I hadn't in years chosen. Planning our small spring wedding felt intimate and right. I sent invitations to my parents and sister, simple velvet boxes, handwritten notes tucked inside, hoping this time they'd show up, not for obligation, but for me. I didn't ask for grand speeches or fancy outfits. I just wanted their chairs to be filled. As the date approached, there were no enthusiastic calls, no questions about travel plans, no, "What can we do to help?" But I convinced myself it didn't matter. Maybe they were busy. Maybe they were planning a surprise. Maybe for once I'd walk toward a moment where they were waiting for me. I was wrong. And the silence that followed that day, those 30 minutes standing at the front of the garden, staring at 3 empty chairs, would echo louder than anything they'd ever said to me. The morning of my wedding smelled like jasmine and early spring, the kind of scent that usually settles my nerves. Friends bustled around the garden venue in Austin, pinning flowers to chairs and adjusting the simple arch I'd designed myself. Ethan's family arrived early, hugging me like they'd been waiting their whole lives to welcome me in. Everything felt soft, intentional, hopeful, except for the 3 chairs in the front row. They were marked with name cards I painted by hand, Mom, Dad, Sister. I hadn't chosen anything flashy, just small wooden signs with ivy painted around the edges. A quiet gesture, a place for them to belong in my moment. 10 o'clock came, then 10:15. Guests settled into their seats, sending me sympathetic glances I tried to pretend I didn't see. Ethan's mother whispered, "Maybe traffic's rough this morning," even though she knew Denver to Austin was a flight, not a drive. I checked my phone. Nothing. At 10:23, the officiant asked gently, "Would you like to give them a little more time?" I nodded, even as something inside me curled in on itself. I told myself expectations were dangerous, but hope is stubborn. It keeps breathing even after you think you've suffocated it. At 10:30, Ethan squeezed my hands. "We can wait as long as you need," he murmured. But I shook my head. No, if they were coming, they'd be here. I walked down the aisle alone, the jasmine scent turning sharp in my throat. Ethan's father stepped forward halfway, offering his arm when he saw my steps falter. I didn't realize until later how tightly I clung to him. After the ceremony, I tried one last time. I called, straight to voicemail. I texted, "We missed you today." Nothing. Hours later, just as the reception ended, my sister finally answered the phone. Her voice was bright, distracted like she was doing her makeup while talking to me. "Oh," she said when I mentioned the wedding. "Was that today?" "You signed for the invitation?" I said quietly. A long pause, then a shrug in her tone. "I had a brand shoot. You didn't expect me to cancel work for a backyard ceremony, right backyard, like the vows I wrote by hand had been a kid's pretend play. Something fragile tore inside me, not loud enough for the world to hear, but loud enough for me to feel the echo. Over the next few weeks, my parents acted like the wedding had been a minor inconvenience they'd unintentionally skipped. My mother sent a text, "Hope it was lovely." My father forwarded an article about Denver real estate. My sister posted a video captioned, "Some people will do anything for attention, embarrassing." Each interaction felt like a paper cut, small but cumulative. Then one night, while I sat at our kitchen table staring at the 3 untouched name cards, Ethan spoke. "Maya," he said slowly, "don't you still have access to the old system? The cameras your family installed years ago, the logs, the door camera, the delivery recordings." A single spark lit in my chest, painful, electric, undeniable. For the first time since my wedding, I felt something other than hurt. I felt certainty. I didn't open the laptop right away. For a long moment, I just sat there, at the kitchen table, staring at the soft glow of the pendant light above us. My fingers hovered over the trackpad, while my mind replayed every excuse I'd made for my family over the years. They're busy. They didn't mean it. Maybe it's just a misunderstanding. But misunderstandings don't leave 3 empty chairs at your wedding. Ethan pulled a chair beside me, not rushing, not pushing. "If you're not ready, we don't have to look tonight." But I was ready. Or maybe I was just tired of hurting without knowing why. I logged into the old home system, the one I designed years ago when my parents renovated their Denver house. They'd never bothered to update the admin credentials. I typed the password, pressed enter, and the dashboard opened like a door I wasn't sure I wanted to walk through. Logs, timestamps, delivery entries stored neatly in chronological order. I scrolled to the week I'd sent the invitations. There it was. Delivery signature required. Timestamp mid-morning. Recipient a name that made my stomach knot. My sister had signed for the package. My breath stalled. I clicked into the camera feed from the front door. The system had automatically saved a preview thumbnail. One more click and the footage loaded in crisp resolution. There she was, clear as day, standing on the porch in workout leggings and a cropped sweatshirt, hair piled in a messy knot, scrolling her phone with one hand. The FedEx driver handed her the velvet box. She looked down at the label. Her expression shifted annoyance, recognition, something sharper I didn't want to name. Then she walked to the side of the house where the bins were kept. She didn't hesitate, not even for a second. She lifted the recycling lid, dropped the box inside like she was discarding junk mail, and checked her reflection in her phone before going back inside. I replayed it 3 times just to make sure the ache shifting inside me wasn't anger distorting reality. But no, the truth stayed the same no matter how many times I watched it. Ethan rested a hand on my back. "Maya, I thought I would cry or break or collapse into that familiar ache of not being chosen. But what rose instead was quiet, heavy, solid. Every year I'd tried to belong. Every moment I'd folded myself smaller to fit the space they left for me. Every excuse I'd made for why I wasn't enough. It wasn't me. It was them. For the first time, that truth didn't devastate me. It steadied me. I saved the footage, backed it up, exported the logs, the timestamps, the delivery confirmation. Nothing more than necessary, nothing intrusive, just the facts they refused to give me. Then I set my laptop down and said the words I'd never imagined saying. "I'm going to her wedding." Ethan nodded slowly. "And what do you want to do there?" I looked him in the eyes. "Tell the truth, just the truth." The ballroom looked unreal the night of my sister's winter wedding, like someone had taken a magazine spread and inflated it into real life. Crystal chandeliers hung low enough to shimmer against sequined gowns. A string quartet played something soft and expensive. Servers glided through the room carrying trays of champagne that cost more per bottle than my entire spring ceremony. I stepped inside quietly, almost unnoticed the way shadows enter a room. Ethan squeezed my hand once before merging into the crowd. We had agreed this moment belonged to me, not because revenge required an audience, but because the truth finally did. My mother Helena glided from table to table accepting compliments like gifts. My father Robert stood beside her stiff, polished, smiling, too wide. And in the center of the room, beneath a floral arch dripping with white roses, stood my sister, the family favorite, the bride basking in her own spotlight. She noticed me first. Her smile faltered not in guilt, but irritation, like I'd shown up wearing the wrong color to her party. "You came," she said through her teeth when I approached the receiving line. "I was invited," I replied calmly. "Technically," her jaw twitched. "Well, make sure you sit toward the back. The photographers are focusing on family." Family, right. Guests filled their seats as speeches began, toasts about loyalty, about sisterhood, about love binding people together. Every word floated through me with the hollow thud of irony. When it was Helena's turn, she tapped her crystal glass with a manicured finger. The room stilled instantly. Even the quartet quieted. In honor of this beautiful night, she set her voice warm and carried with practiced elegance. "I want to say a few words to my daughters." Her daughters. My stomach tightened. She turned toward me with a smile that could slice glass. "So, Maya," she said, "when's your turn?" A ripple moved through the crowd, curiosity, amusement, anticipation. My father looked down. My sister smirked. And for a heartbeat, I felt 12 years old again, shrinking under the weight of being the family's afterthought. But this time, something inside me held firm. I stood. My chair barely made a sound as it slid back, but the movement rippled through the entire ballroom. Hundreds of heads turned, the air condensed into something sharp. "When's my turn?" I repeated softly. 8 months ago." A hush slammed down thick, immediate. I let the silence settle before continuing. 8 months ago, I had a wedding. A small garden ceremony in Austin. You were all invited. My mother blinked, confused. My father's face drained of color. My sister froze like a photograph caught mid-smile. My voice stayed level. "You didn't come because you never received your invitations. At least that's what I believed. Until I discovered the truth." Murmurs flickered through the crowd. My sister pushed forward. "Stop, don't do this here." "Why shouldn't I?" I asked. "This is where it started." "I never got anything from you," she snapped. "You're trying to ruin my day." "No," I said, reaching into my clutch for the iPad I'd prepared. "But you tried to ruin mine." I walked toward the large screen near the head table, the one displaying rotating engagement photos all night. The technician standing nearby, confused, looked at me for instruction. Ethan appeared at his side, offering a quiet explanation. Within seconds, the screen went black. My sister began shaking her head. "Maya, don't. Seriously, don't." The video started. It flickered to life with the timestamp clear in the corner. The camera angle showed the front porch of my parents' Denver home, the home I had helped renovate years ago. The sound in the ballroom dimmed to nothing. The FedEx driver approached the door, holding a velvet box. He rang the bell. Seconds later, my sister opened the door in leggings and a sweatshirt, her phone in her hand. She signed. She took the box. She read the label. The room held its breath. Then with casual indifference, she walked to the side of the house and dropped the box into the recycling bin. She didn't hesitate, didn't open it, didn't check if it was important. She simply discarded it and walked back inside. The screen froze on that final frame. Her back turned, the bin open, the velvet box half swallowed by blue plastic. Gasps erupted around the room. Someone whispered, "Oh my God." A woman at the front covered her mouth. A man near the back muttered, "That's cold." The bride. My sister stood, trembling hands gripping her bouquet so tightly petals broke off. This isn't Maya manipulated it," she stammered. I shook my head. "It's the raw footage. The logs confirm the delivery. The signature confirms you received it. The video shows what you did with it." My mother finally found her voice. "Maya, why didn't you tell us earlier I did?" I said quietly. "For 30 minutes on my wedding day, I kept telling myself you might just be running late. that you'd walk in, that for once you'd show up for me. My father stepped forward, suddenly angry. You didn't call again. You didn't follow up. I shouldn't have needed to, I replied. I shouldn't have had to beg you to be my parents. The bride's groom, standing pale beside her, looked at the screen and then at her. His voice shook. Is this real? She didn't answer. She couldn't. This is out of context. She tried again. There is no context where this becomes kindness, I said. A long, suffocating silence followed. Then someone in the back clapped. Just once. Sharp enough to split the air. Others didn't join, but the intention sat there undeniable. The groom finally lowered his head. I need some air. My sister reached for him. Please don't leave. Please. But he stepped away. My mother was crying now, reaching toward me as though realizing only in this moment that I was real, that I had feelings, that I had bled alone through a day meant to be one of the happiest of my life. Maya, she whispered, why would she do that? I looked at her. Not cruelly, not triumphantly, just honestly, because you taught her she could. No one moved. No one breathed. I placed the iPad down gently on the table and stepped back from the spotlight my sister had always claimed as hers. There's nothing more to say, I told them. The truth is enough. And with that, I walked out of the ballroom. Behind me, the string quartet picked up their instruments again, unsure whether to continue the celebration or mourn the collapse happening in front of them. But I didn't look back. For the first time in my life, I didn't need my family to follow me. I finally had myself. The video didn't stay inside the ballroom. Someone recorded the screen on their phone, and by morning, it had already found its way onto social media. I didn't post it, didn't share it, didn't answer a single message. But the internet didn't need my help. By noon, the clip had millions of views and comment sections full of strangers who understood a kind of hurt I'd carried for years. My sister went silent online for the first time in her career. Brand partnerships paused. A few quietly ended. Followers dropped by the thousands. She issued a vague statement about family misunderstandings, but people had watched the footage with their own eyes. It was hard to misunderstand a velvet box falling into a recycling bin. My mother called. My father emailed. Both talked around apologies without ever landing on one. I answered neither. There's a difference between regret and accountability, and I was done trying to translate between the two. Ethan and I spent New Year's with his family at a small house near the Seattle waterfront. While snow drifted across the deck, his mother handed me a warm mug of cocoa and said, "You're safe here, sweetheart." And for the first time in a long time, I believed someone when they said that. Because safety isn't the absence of pain, it's the presence of people who don't abandon you to it. I used to think belonging was something you earned by staying quiet, staying small, staying grateful for whatever space people gave you. But walking out of that ballroom taught me something different. You don't beg for a seat at a table built on indifference. You build a new one with people who show up without being asked. My life didn't end when my family didn't choose me. It finally began when I chose myself. If you've ever felt overlooked by the people who should have seen you first, share your story in the comments. And hit subscribe, there's more to tell.